Hi, welcome to the Mom of Many podcast. I'm TammyMa, and I'll be your host. So today we're going to be talking about a problem that many parents face. It's not uncommon, and that's your children and teens oversleeping and not getting up in the morning and not getting out the door to school on time. And so let me start with a letter from a listener. Hi, Tamma. I have a 7-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 15-year-old. My 14-year-old repeatedly gets into trouble for oversleeping on school days. My husband must frequently drive him to school. This week he had to take him 3 times. He has an alarm in his room, but he often ignores it. While I wake up my 7-year-old and my 15-year-old wakes up on her own, I think my teens are big enough to wake up on their own. I can't seem to get him to care at all. Please help me. Thank you for writing. That is a great question. And trust me, a lot of parents are in the same boat as you. So I like to look at every single parenting problem in different ways. One, we look at the actual foundation, and we look at the blueprint. We also look at the framework, which we've talked about in episode 2. And if you have a chance, you can go back and watch that. So let's look at it from different angles. First of all, again, you're not the only parent that's faced this. This is really, really common. I've faced it before too. And I didn't know what to do about it. Let's make sure that, first of all, there's all the healthy variables at play. I'm going to assume that you guys are on the same page as me. I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to convince you, but these are the healthy variables that I would look at. Make sure his phone is not with him in his room. He definitely doesn't have access to his phone past 7 or 8 p.m. He's going to bed at a reasonable hour. Research shows that teenagers that age need 8 to 10 hours a day of sleep. If he's supposed to wake up at 6:30, he needs to be asleep by 9:30 or 10 at the latest. This is just science. This is not my opinion. Are these things happening? Is this happening in your home? Is he getting enough sleep? Is he eating reasonably healthy? No caffeine or sugar or junk food past 7. I mean, I know that's not 100% of the time, but most of the time, is that how he's eating? So assuming that you said yes to all of these things, which we'll assume that you are saying yes. If you didn't say yes, it might be time to make some practical changes. So now let's attack this from another angle. Let's assume all those variables are in place, or at least you're working to get them in place. Well, he still needs to get up on time, even if they're not in place. But I'm just trying to help you to kind of rule out all of those things as you think about it. So, my teenager would easily wake up if something exciting were happening, so we do know it's their choice. So I'm not trying to absolve your teenager from his decisions or his choices or his consequences. So why in the world would your teen care about oversleeping if there's no price to pay? And I say this to parents everywhere. Let me give you an example. Newsflash, most teenagers are not bothered when you scold them. A lot of times the parents will get upset and they'll get angry, and sometimes they'll yell, sometimes they'll say things, sometimes they'll show their anger and huffing and puffing and letting their child know they're angry, maybe scolding them. But newsflash, that stuff doesn't really sting, not for most teenagers. Now, there are some teenagers you can just say, I'm disappointed in you. And, and it does kind of give a sting to them. But I'm going to tell you that those kids are rare. So it's actually most kids, they're not, by the time they're 14 years old, it's not the end of the world if their mom scolds them for being late. So you saying, you're going to be late, get up, it's not a big deal to them. It's worth it. So they get an extra half an hour of sleep, maybe even an hour, an easy ride to school. Honestly speaking, I would have done the same thing if I were a teenager. So some schools have consequences. Some schools don't have consequences. And you might say, you're going to be late. There's going to be consequences. It may or may not be true. I don't know. But it just doesn't really bother them. If you tried that, it doesn't work actually, because you're in the same boat the next day or the next week. And so what's a way that we can actually stop it 100%? That's kind of what I'm after. So, okay. I have a big disclaimer right now. I've been parenting in another country, so the things I say may or may not be politically correct. So please don't cancel me, but this is just me coming at you with advice from somebody who's raised their kids in a different country, in a different setting. And so this is some of my experiences. When one of my kids refused to get up on time and missed the bus, Um, one time is we give them grace, right? Grace. Sometimes we have bad days. Sometimes it's hard to get up in the mornings, and we just extend grace. We're not going to, be ogres about it. But if it's a habit and it's happening again and again, it happens next week, and then the next week it happens 2 times, or in your case, you said it happened 3 times in 1 week. We have a problem. We have a problem. And so the grace method isn't really working, is it? So we have to think of something else. So when one of my sons had missed a couple of days, he had been late a couple of days and missed the bus, we kind of overlooked it. But on the 3rd time, it comes time to stop overlooking it. And so I made him walk. I made him walk to school. And he was probably 14 years old, 13 or 14 years old. He had to walk. It was 3 kilometers, which is about 2 miles. If they're safe, let them walk. If they're not safe, let them walk, and you can drive alongside them. If it's too far to walk, let them walk for half an hour, and then take them in the car. You get the picture, right? It needs to sting a little bit. No healthy kid ever died from walking a couple of miles. I promise you, it won't happen again. It really will stop. Let them be late. Don't go sign them in. Let them handle the consequences. Whatever happens, happens. It's up to them. You're not the one, that was late. So don't take the consequences on yourself. Your husband driving your teenager to school 3 times is your husband taking the consequences of your son's decision. You have got to let your son handle his own consequences. And for me, if it was me, I would let him walk. If it's raining, hand him an umbrella. If it's snowing, give him a coat and some snow boots. Let him walk. And if it's really, really not safe to walk alone, then drive along beside him and let them walk and watch them go to school. If it's too far, again, let them walk half an hour. Let them sweat. Let them feel the sting of being late, and then drive them the rest of the way. Do what you got to do. Now I know I don't know what you parents are thinking because I have not been in America very long, but I'm thinking this is a great idea, and so. It really does work. What's going to happen? What are we worried about? What's going to happen if they walk? What's going to happen? I mean, they're going to learn a lesson and they're not going to do it again. I'm telling you, my son, he walked one day to school, 2 kilometers, and it never happened again. He was never late again for the rest of his high school career. And so it does work. There's other creative things that you can do. Lose their phone for the day. If you're late, you lose your phone for a day. If you're late, if you don't get in school in time, then you lose your phone for a day. And if it happens again, you lose your phone for a week. I mean, I know a lot of parents are like, I don't want them to lose their phone because how would I get a hold of them? I mean, don't you remember what it was like when we grew up? We didn't have phones. We were fine. You've got to think about your child's character and the kind of person that you want to raise. And you can't keep making excuses for bad choices. They've got to sting. Consequences have to sting. They've got to fill them a little bit. So there's other choices that you can make. Again, I may get canceled, but hopefully not. These are some ideas for you. Tell them that those that don't get an education, like if they keep doing it, they keep late, or they don't want to go to school. Tell them that, hey, you know what? There's people that don't get an education. Sometimes they have less choices for what they can do in the future. And since you've chosen not to avail this education, that's fine. We'll let you feel what it feels like to work for the day instead of going to school. And so let them work that whole day. Give them a list of things to do around the house, at least 6 to 8 hours worth of work. Tell them that you're fair and you'll pay them minimum wage, the same price you'd pay an adult for the same work. 8 hours of cleaning your house, $7.25 an hour. $7.25 is a minimum wage in Georgia, $58. Now listen to me because I'm going somewhere with this advice, okay? So if you're there with them, you can check in on them. They've got to be doing the jobs that you've given them. And tell them, if you work like an adult, I'll pay you like an adult. If you work like a child, I'll pay you like a child. And so in my experience, I've done this before, by the way, they do work like adults. And especially if they know they're getting paid. So you pay them $7.25 an hour, 8 hours of cleaning houses, mowing the lawn, cleaning up stuff, organizing the garage, cleaning out the refrigerator, deep clean the house, mopping, vacuuming, do whatever. I mean, just put them to work for the whole day. If you're not there, you know what? They can take photos and they can send them to you, a photo after each job, and show you, I finished this job. Here's a picture of it done. And then at the end of the day, they've skipped school because they were late again and again. And so they might be thinking, man, I hit gold. Mom just giving me $58 and I get to stay home all day. like I had to do a little bit of work, but it's fine. I got $58. And I say, give it to them in cash, $58. You worked 8 hours, $7.25 an hour. Here you go. Good job. And then say, but wait. Before you go to your room, let me tell you something. In the real world, you get paid $58 for working for 8 hours at minimum wage. But in the real world also, you've got to pay your bills. And so let me think. An average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment is $1,200 divided by 30 days. Today's 1 day. You got to pay $40 for your rent today. And then they'll hand you $40, and it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. If you have a sense of humor. By the way, one of my parenting tenets is that parenting and discipline should be entertaining to the parents at all times. So you hand them the $58, and then you say average rent for a 1-bedroom in our area is $1,200. That's going to cost you $40. And so they hand you $40, and their faces, of course, and their hearts are like sinking at that moment. And did you eat anything today? Oh, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, well, that's an average food bill for a one person, a single, for is $14 per day. And so, yeah, can you give me $14? And they hand you the last $14. They've got $4 left, and then you say, by the way, was the light on at all today? Did you have electricity? Did you have water? Did you flush a toilet? Did you use the internet? Okay, well, the average price for electricity, internet, gas, and water is about $4 a day per person. And then, of course, that equals $58. So, boom, after they got paid, they've gotten the message. And so I know that this is controversial to some people, but I think it's brilliant. And I have done it before, and it has worked for kids that didn't want to go to school. And so there's all kinds of creative ways you can do it. The bottom line, I'm kind of joking, but I'm actually not joking. Like your consequence has to sting. There's no sting when your husband gives your son a ride 3 days a week to school. I mean, that's craziness because it's just a punishment for your husband. And that's not fair. He's not the one that woke up late. And so, again, just remember that scolding is not punishment. It's not consequences. It's just an annoyance for your teenagers. You need to have something that packs a little wallop, a little sting. And these are more ideas. And if you want even more ideas, you can always contact me at momofmany.us, and I will give you even more ideas. But the point is, if your consequence for your teenage oversleeping stings a little bit, guess what? They will stop oversleeping. It's that simple. And so I hope this helps. By the way, you don't have to be mean. You don't have to be cruel, or you don't have to be sarcastic. You don't have to be embarrassing or humiliating your child. You can incorporate humor and kindness and still be strict. And remember, at the end of the day, we're trying to build character in our young people and our teenagers and our children. We're not trying to be their best friend. It's okay if they get mad at us. It's okay if they get angry with us. It's fine. We're not going to die. They're not going to die. Everything's cool. And so my advice to you is to let your teenager pay the consequences for being late, and let the consequences pack a little sting. So hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me at askmomofmany@gmail.com. Welcome to Arumaisms. This is the part of my show where I share funny quotes from Arumai. She's our youngest, and she said some really funny things over the years. So here's a funny one. When she was 8 years old, after a tough conflict with somebody in her home, she came upstairs and she went into her room. She was really upset. She came out 10 minutes later and she hugged me and said, "Mama, you won't believe what I just did. I can't believe I did it myself. I was so angry with," and then she named the person who I'm not going to name. I was so angry, so I did something terrible just now. And I said, "Well, what did you do?" And she said, "I threw all my precious baby dolls on the floor as hard as I could." Me, shocked, because she had never, ever reacted with anger before towards anything. She's not one of those kids that struggles with anger or anything. And I said, "Well, that does surprise me. That doesn't sound like a good way to behave or how to handle anger. Do you feel better now that you did it?" And she goes, "No, it didn't make me feel any better. I felt worse. But don't worry, Mama. I switched them off first." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And she said, "I switched off the magic button at the back of their necks that turns them from human babies to baby dolls, so they wouldn't get hurt." That's it.